Hey, everybody. Welcome to Walking Between Shadows. We're your host. I'm Ben.
I'm Taryn.
And Taryn, this week we're going to talk about a story that we got from somebody we were in high school with.
Yes.
Well, all through school.
Yes, we were.
Yeah. And so this story kind of strikes near and dear to our hearts. And I know you've definitely felt a lot of emotions this week as you've learned about it.
Yes, I talked to Glenn's daughter a lot yesterday, and just been researching this case and just kind of looking into who Glen Woods was, and that's who we're going to talk about today.
Yeah.
A friend of ours, it's a friend of ours' ex-husband, and her daughter's father.
Mm-hmm.
So her oldest daughter's father. So
Yeah.
yeah, I want to put this out there.
Yeah. So Glen Woods, and again, just so happens he's in the 13th district of Tennessee,
Yeah. Yeah,
and
we're going to talk about that a lot today too when we go a little bit deeper into this.
was he originally from that area?
No, he was from Gallatin, Tennessee,
Yeah.
which is what, not far from Nashville.
No, I don't think so.
I'm not exactly sure, but he was not from there. And yeah, he had moved back to Celina, I think after he'd gone through some losses, the loss of his mother.
hmm
Um,
Now you brought up a point though. Is it Celina or
did
Celina?
I say Celina?
You did.
Oh, it's Celina. And I had to look that up too because I didn't know how to say it. You
Well,
know,
and everywhere else I've seen that name, it's been with an S, and this
right.
is a C.
Yes.
This is
It's
Celina.
right. And I had to go look that up, the pronunciation of that, because I know how it is in Milan, Tennessee, and people say Milan.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I wanted to get it right because I don't want to disrespect anybody from that area. And Celina is a tiny little area,
How many
really.
people are there?
It's 1,400 people are the population. So
Okay.
we're looking at a small town,
Yeah.
very small town. But Glen Woods, 53 years old. Um, was going through some hard stuff.
Mhm.
Um, he battled drug addiction for many years after, um, so he was married to our friend Julie. They had their daughter, Michaela,
Mhm.
and he would get Michaela, on the weekends and stuff when his mother was still alive, when Glenn's mother was still alive. But after that, after she passed away, it was less. He got really deep into his addiction.
Yeah, and you told me something I didn't know. He actually lived in this area because that's where his mother was?
I'm not sure if Gallatin was where his mother was and he moved from there to Salina. I'm not exactly sure.
Okay.
But yeah, he was, and I suppose he was around Gibson County area whenever Michaela was born,
Yeah,
unless Julie was living up in the Gallatin area.
yeah.
Yeah. So he's living in Salina and he gets in some trouble. Okay. So he's living with this man by the name of Scotty Lay. And he gets in some trouble. He has to go to jail for a little while, and he gets out of jail and he moves back in and rents a room from Scotty Lay.
Mhm.
And he's just not heard of. I mean, he's just not heard of after September, around the 5th of September of 2023.
Mhm.
So people went by and started checking on him because Glenn was known to put a lot of like posts on Facebook. He
Mhm.
was active on social media, and he was still talking to Michaela, his daughter, even though he was in addiction. And Michaela told me, him being pretty far away and without a vehicle,
Mhm.
on disability,
Yeah.
um, he wasn't really able to travel. And when she got married a little bit before he disappeared, um, she said, I didn't invite him to the wedding. And I feel really guilty about that, but I think I understand why. You know,
Mhm.
don't set yourself up for disappointment, or Glenn either.
Well, what kind of relationship did they actually have, though?
She was always, she always kind of held some anger towards him a little bit, for the addiction, because it's hard being a kid, and having to deal with that and worry about your parent.
Mhm.
They should be a kid. She should have been a kid. She
Yeah.
shouldn't have had to worry about those things because she really did love her dad. When she was real small, she told me about a story of him. She would go up there and visit and stay with him on the weekends with her grandmother and him. She said he'd always go to the store before I had to go home and buy me a pack of gum. And she said, "You can ask my mother." Um, she told me that I would say he hung the moon just for that pack of gum.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
But
it's just a thought.
yeah, and that's some of the little things you
Right.
remember as a child.
Yeah, just him thinking of her,
Mhm.
and that's that memory, that core memory that sits with her.
Mhm.
Um, she also shared some messages he sent to her a little bit before he went missing, and maybe it might have been right before she got married,
Yeah.
but he told her that he really did love her and that he just let drugs take over his whole entire life.
Mhm.
Um, he said that he knew that her stepfather, Dale,
Mhm.
was a very good provider,
Mhm.
that he was smarter than him and better than him. And it made me sad because I thought, yes, I know, I know who Dale is, and I know he's a wonderful father, but just to miss out and not give yourself enough grace to get better
Mhm.
and allow yourself those joys and those memories with your children, it makes me sad for him.
Yeah, and a lot of people miss out on that.
Yeah. So, I mean, those little things stuck with her. And that's the kind of relationship she said, I have forgiven him. I had
Mhm.
forgiven him, and I love him very much.
Mhm.
And he did not deserve to go missing and no one, you know, tell anything about what's going on.
So let's talk about his addiction.
Yeah. So he had told his daughter and his ex-wife, that he was actually selling drugs at that time. So he goes to jail for a little while. He's renting this room. He gets out and he's renting this room from Scotty Lay. And he tells, people, friends and family
Mhm.
that he is selling for the police, for law enforcement.
Mhm.
He's selling drugs for law enforcement. And that's something we're going to talk about a little bit more too later in this episode. But that's something that I've heard of a lot in that area,
Yeah.
okay? And so, I don't know, if that's the case or if that's just something that people say,
Mhm.
but to me, there's a lot of signs that would point to maybe they were selling for law enforcement.
Well, this is one of the two main topics that um comes out as a conspiracy theory in
Right,
that area is
right,
that, drugs and drug trafficking is a big part of the law enforcement in a large swath of this area of Tennessee.
right, right. And it's like Glenn goes missing, okay? So friends are going by and his little dog Sadie's there. And I kind of got to know his personality not only through Michaela, but also through his Facebook posts with that dog, Sadie, with his little dog, Sadie.
Mhm.
He was gentle and he loved that dog, and that dog went everywhere with him. Okay. So when friends are coming by and Glenn's not been posting anything on social media and they're going by to check on him at Scotty's house,
Mhm.
and this is on Peterman Bend Road in
Yeah.
Celina, Tennessee.
Yeah.
Um, they noticed the dogs there for a little while. Okay. In September and October, and they noticed that Sadie is there without Glenn. And these friends claim they did go to police and file a missing person report,
Mhm.
but it took Michaela, I believe, like till January of 24. So
Mhm.
several months after he had been, come up missing, before the police, the Clay County Sheriff's Department actually filed a missing person report. And I did look on Clay County on their page, and I did see Glenn's picture up and his information.
Mhm.
So he claimed that he and this Scotty Lay were, selling, and I'm sure that they were using because Glenn was in an addiction. And I don't know exactly what kind of person this Scotty Lay is, but I've heard um, some things,
Mhm.
that he had been involved in selling people drugs that they overdosed on, and possibly leaving, a woman in a park somewhere after she had overdosed with him.
Mhm.
And that goes back to me wondering if law enforcement does have something involved. I mean, in Tennessee, we've talked about this with several different cases through the 13th district and up in Kingsport, Tennessee,
Mhm.
that if someone sells someone a drug and they die, the person dies that receives this drug from that person will be charged with second degree murder. But what if it is the police that they're selling for?
Mhm.
Then what?
That's their only path to amnesty.
Who do they charge? Not
That's right.
themselves.
Yeah.
So that's the part that the conspiracy comes in a little bit.
Mhm.
And you know, I've lived a pretty harsh life before too, and I do know that there are dirty police officers and things
Yeah.
in law enforcement. So I'm not stupid to that.
Well, and this law prevents people from talking.
Yes.
It makes people run and hide.
Scotty Lay was seen using Glenn's EBT card
Mhm.
and Glenn's disability check. Now there now has been a stop put to that. They're holding that because he is missing. I don't know how long they do that before, I don't family or
I
whatever.
think until somebody's declared deceased.
Okay. So that if Scotty Lay was using this EBT card after Glenn, you know, had disappeared, it seems like they would have pulled him in for some questioning.
Mhm. Mhm.
Also, when friends went back to check on him again, Sadie was gone. And so the little dog's gone too now.
Yeah.
And in December of 2023, Scotty Lay or somebody puts Glenn's bike. So he had a bicycle that he took around. He was on that all the time. He didn't have a
Mhm.
driver's license.
Mhm.
So um, that was sold on Facebook Marketplace. So yeah,
And the police don't know who sold it?
that I don't know. That would take an investigation. So it makes me wonder, if they've looked into this.
Yeah.
Now, TBI, I talked to Michaela, who's Glenn's daughter, again yesterday, and she said that she has reached out to TBI. So I'm not sure why TBI would have their hands on this. Did they do that when someone disappears? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe so. Maybe so. But Michaela has reached out to TBI several times over the past several weeks
Mhm.
and has yet heard anything. They will not return her phone calls. So she hasn't heard anything,
Yeah.
which, that's in itself enough to drive you mad.
Yeah.
But waking up every day for a year now and not knowing where your father is, that's
Yeah.
that's torture.
So, has she talked to Clay County?
I'm sure she has spoken with Clay County, and I
Mhm.
don't know if they are directing her to the TBI
Mhm.
or how that's working,
Mhm.
but it just seems like with the TBI involved that they will be able to technic the technology-wise, be able to go maybe tap into, you know
Like cameras where the
right,
EBT card was used at a
right.
store.
I mean, it has been said that he was seen on camera using
Yeah.
the CBT card, so
But the truth is, nobody knows that you've spoken to if there is an active investigation. They just have him listed as a missing person, right?
that's right. He is a missing person.
So Michaela, Julie, none of them know if there's an active investigation.
It's been so close-lipped, and, everything in Tennessee is, and it's very frustrating, because it seems like time will just pass and people forget.
Yeah.
If you don't jump on it when it's fresh, people forget. Look at Summer Wells. Look at Sebastian Rogers, Layla Santinello. You got to get on it. You got to get on it, and then it just haul and snap. I mean, I can just keep going on and on and on.
Well, there's shows on TV like called The First 48
Right?
where these investigators in different cities, say that if you don't find answers in the first 48 hours, then your chances of finding any answers are significantly reduced.
Right.
But that's in a crime that you know's happened. Like, you don't even know what the disposition of Glenn is. And so, does that work the same way in a missing persons case? Because they could have been gone for 24 to 48 hours before it's even talked about.
Here we are in 2024, and it's like, how do you, I mean, it's very hard to just go missing, like to just say, hey, I'm going to go start all over a new life because there's cameras everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And you have, they've got their thumb on everybody. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
so it's hard. It's hard for me to swallow. And then I think about what about all those months that he was missing, and before his disability check was, put a hold on. Was it? Did anybody cash that? I
Yeah,
mean,
somebody tried to, didn't they?
I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know. I do know that the EBT card was used, and there's a
yeah.
possibility that they could have tried to use his,
That may be what
cash.
I'm thinking about, EBT.
Right. It just seems to me that the last people that were to see him, it, the very first thing you're going to do is question those people, especially when one of them has already been known for one, possibly selling someone that overdosed,
Mhm.
and two, selling drugs, period. Selling drugs, period. Does that not put somebody on the radar? But then you're using their EBT card, you know?
Yeah,
So that's a lot.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I wanna go back to that statement you made a while ago about there's cameras everywhere and it's hard to disappear.
Mhm.
And this is usually where people are seated with conspiracy.
Yeah.
On one hand, you're very correct in that statement. I think it's increasingly difficult for people to not be witnessed doing things or in transit, whatever.
Mhm.
So here's the conspiracy part of it.
Okay.
If it's easier to keep an eye on people, then does that mean someone has a hand in hiding them when they disappear?
Absolutely.
And I refer to not only the fact that some people believe law enforcement have a hand in stuff like this because they can cover that up or they
Mhm.
can hide it, but we talk about, trafficking,
Yeah.
not just drugs, but kids and humans, and that conspiracy runs rampant,
Yes.
especially in this area of Tennessee. And if that's the case, I can see where people come up with that. Even in a time when we do have cameras everywhere, when we do have technology everywhere,
Mhm.
with the right assistance, I think it's very possible for people to disappear.
Yeah, with the right assistance, but we're talking about people that at this time, I mean, are in active addiction, that are not making, I mean, let's talk about Caitlin Ledbetter. I mean,
Uh,
same area. We're going back to the 13th. Just disappears. 26 years old. These are adults. These
mhm.
are not children. They're adults. And Caitlin may have not been in active addiction, but we do know that Glenn was. And where are they going? I
Well,
mean,
that's my point. They're going to a place where people are hiding them. They're going to a place where people are removing them. And that's what I mean. Like, no, you can't just up and disappear, make that decision
mhm,
without a lot of assistance and a
right.
lot of training. And
Okay.
so if you're not one of those types, then
Yeah.
you got to have help.
You gotta have money. You gotta have that money.
But what I'm trying to say is you got to have somebody that hides your ass.
Yeah. You're right.
That's my point. It's not whether or not you can afford to do it or you have the will to do it. That's not my point. My point is if there is such a conspiracy and it's even remotely true, then the police can remove you from society.
Yes.
The TBI can remove you from society. Gangs, anybody in any kind of organized crime can remove you.
Yes.
And that's what bothers me about all of this.
Yeah.
Why is this an epicenter for this in this region?
Drugs. It just, they're rampant, and it
Yeah.
just So it brings, it brings up the question, like I said earlier, is it are these people that are just disappearing that have a history of addiction?
Yeah.
I mean, are they selling for the police and then something happens to them and they do overdose? Okay. And then
Yeah. So let's go to that simple solution there,
yeah,
especially about Glenn.
yeah,
I know the one fleeting conversation that I had with Julie about it was, there's a channel to the Columbia River that surrounds three sides of the property he was living on with Scotty Lay.
yes,
And, one of the things we discussed was if he did OD, he was probably dumped in the river.
right,
If he was murdered, he was probably dumped in the river. It
right,
was literally feet from where he lived.
right. Yeah.
And that channel that goes around that property dumps into the Columbia River, which is a major waterway through that area. The channel, not so much, but there's a dam there that comes off of the lake.
Mm-hmm.
And, when it rains a lot, certain times of the year, they have to open that dam up and relieve that water, and it all comes through that channel. I could see a body being swept over into the Columbia River pretty easily if it was the right time of the year and the right circumstances.
And nobody's looking.
Right.
Nobody's looking for him.
Yeah. And in this case, I mean, to think that it's impossible for somebody that's, suspected of doing that type of stuff in the
Right.
past, Scotty Lake could have been the culprit there. Nobody knows.
Nobody knows. I
And
mean,
that's why I ask you, do you know if there's an active investigation this whole thing?
yes. Yes, they're supposedly looking into this. This is something that's, like I said, Clay County has put this picture of him up, but whether or not TBI and Clay County Sheriff's Department is looking into it, I do not know. They can say it, but I
Mhm.
don't know if that's the truth. I mean, we've seen a lot of people that and cases that need to be investigated up there
Mhm.
that are not investigated up there.
Do you think there's a chance that somebody in, the circle of people, I'm not gonna call them friends necessarily in this case, would still have his dog?
So I know that in a post that Julie made that they're very worried that that this person, Scotty Lay, could have done something very bad to the dog.
Mm.
That's sad.
So it just sounds like there's the chance that Scotty Lay just erased him.
It's like, where's the evidence pointing
Mhm.
to? It's all pointing to you used someone's food stamp card that was missing.
Mhm.
He was living at your home. Y'all were using drugs together, maybe and possibly selling drugs together, and you also sell his bike and get rid of his dog afterwards. Why not reach out to the family?
Mhm.
Why not reach out to his daughter
Mhm.
or Julie or someone that
Yeah.
because I do know that they're not stopping. You know, Glenn's family, just because he had problems and he was lost in addiction, does not mean that they're going to leave him lost forever.
Right.
They have made the statement that they're not going to stop. They've also put up, there is a reward for anyone with any information. I don't know exactly how much that is, but do know that there is a post up that there is a reward offered for
Yeah.
any information on this
Yeah.
that could lead to, where Glenn is.
Right. And so Clay County Sheriff's Office has him listed or is on their website with his picture as a missing person.
Right.
Okay.
Yes. It's a missing person. And he's not just an addict that, you know, needs to be thrown away, that people can look at it that way, but he was also a father and he's a grandfather
Yeah.
and people's friends. And, you know, it breaks my heart for everyone that loves him,
Mhm.
that they're going through this.
Mhm.
And I just hope that there's some answers soon for this family.
Yeah, it's another situation where all you can do is just push
Yep.
on buttons until you finally get something done.
Yep.
Is it impossible for, um, like, some us even to reach out to Clay County Sheriff's Office and ask questions?
Uh, we could absolutely try. We can
Yeah.
absolutely try. And like I said, Michaela has tried speaking with TBI
Mhm.
past several weeks and no response.
Mhm.
No response at all.
Boy, they sure are a closed up clam, right?
More, and I get it. I know that, with those agencies, they are, especially in Tennessee.
Well, but think about the cases that we just know about in other states even, where the state investigative bureaus keep in touch with the family.
Yeah.
They're a source of information.
And I thought that was kind of like the rule book that they had to go by.
Me too,
I mean, I
me
thought
too.
that they had to have contact with the family if they're missing, you know, it, any updates or at least monthly. This is what's going on. This is what maybe we can't tell you much, but we can tell you that, we are actively doing our
Yeah,
job. And you know that by us contacting you every month or at least answering your phone calls.
yeah.
That's some respect that I feel like all victims' families should absolutely get. They're going through a hard time. And, sometimes just hearing from somebody that we're working on this, you know, we
Mhm,
are absolutely working on this,
mhm.
is that helps. I mean,
Yeah.
that can make their day a little bit easier.
Yeah, I'd rather hear something from them, even if it's nothing but, "Hey, we're
Yeah.
looking into it."
Hey, we're still working on this. But
Mm,
to not contact back, that's like what's going on.
yeah.
You know, yeah. And I think people in law enforcement tend to not get cold to this, but, they are busy. They're very busy. And
Well, let's face it, most of them don't wanna be told how to do their job,
no, yeah,
you know? And you start ruffling feathers and that big old chip they wear on their shoulders getting knocked around, they don't wanna answer.
hmm,
It's okay for them to tell me we don't know anything, but don't take no for an answer either.
that's right.
In these cases that do get solved even years down the road, decades down the road, it's because somebody decided not to take no for an answer.
That's right. I mean, what would happen to Glenn if his daughter and his ex-wife weren't pushing for this? What would happen?
Fairy dust.
Right. Just gone.
Yeah.
Like we'll put his picture up there, but nobody cares because I mean he was an addict. Well,
Mhm.
people do care. People do care.
Well, that's the other thing. I've had family members and friends that have become addicts, and there comes a point with addicts where you have to turn a cold shoulder to them,
Yeah.
but you don't give up,
No.
and you
No.
don't classify them as less than worthy, and that's what happens. That's people go, oh, he's a dope head, or she's a dope. You can't believe them, or look
Right.
at what they've done.
Yeah.
Stop. Really,
Yeah.
somebody loves that person
Yes.
somewhere, and it's worthy of the fight. It's about humanity. It ain't about him or her. Or,
That's right. That's exactly right.
yeah, I'm about to get on a soapbox, so I don't need to go there right now. But that's how I feel about it.
Yeah.
You know. Anyway, so Michaela, Julie, um, we're gonna do what we can,
Yeah.
and we're gonna keep the word out there. We're gonna keep talking about it, however long that takes.
Yes.
So first off, um, thank you for your persistence, and let us know anything we can do along the way.
Yeah.
So, in reference to the 13th in this area of Tennessee,
Yeah.
and I'm sorry, but that one just weighs a little heavier on me.
Yeah.
You know, I'm sorry. If I didn't know them, I don't know that would be different because of my cause for humanity, but it does because we've had conversations in the past about this.
This has been very heavy.
Yeah, yeah. Or as I would say, I know, right? Anyway, um, back at the 13th, there's been kind of a developing story out of there.
Well, it's yeah, it's out of the 13th, but it's all of Tennessee.
Yeah.
It's all of Tennessee because uh, this person we're about to talk about he's close to the 13th, but not quite in the 13th. So,
Yeah, close enough that has said a lot about it though.
oh yeah,
Yeah, so um Shawn Taylor.
yes,
Shawn Taylor, he's a gypsy cop.
Gypsy Cop, the
And so what
conspiracy cop.
yeah, conspiracy cop, gypsy cop. So
Yep.
what people have to know about gypsy cops is um they will go get a certification, law enforcement certification, um, and like buy their own patrol car and put their own lighting in it and radios and all that kind of stuff. And there was one in Gibson County for years.
Really?
Oh yeah. And he yeah, he would work for the county for a while. He would work for this city or that city for a while, but he moved around
Hmm.
and tough to get along with.
Was he tough to get along with because he wasn't falling for the shit that was deep rooted?
I would like to think so.
Right.
Um, but the other circumstance that I've encountered in this was somebody who, again, had a large chip on their shoulder and thought this was a way that they could exercise their fight against the community, and that never works out well. And so, Shawn Taylor gets on or starts a podcast.
I think he's had it for a little while.
Yeah, but in this time with this podcast, he's talked to very extreme right wing groups, um, and all the conspiracy theories of this guy's brought up conspiracy theories like the ones we hear every day against Trump or Harris or anybody.
Hmm.
But I mean, he has taken it a step further.
Okay.
So throughout all of these various departments that he's worked for, he claims that he has began to investigate a lot of these conspiracies and that he's garnered lots of evidence. He's found a whole lot of evidence supporting his claims.
Hmm.
And, he gets on a podcast and he calls out, former governors, current governors of Tennessee, senators, Congress people, and just people in general, just
Right.
calls them out,
Right.
you know. And the one that really kind of stuck in our minds was Al Gore. So he gets on there and he calls out Al Gore and, all kinds of fun language about him. And um, he also launched into a tirade about the DA in the 13th district.
Yeah.
Without evidence, he accuses Cookeville DA Bryant Dunaway of covering up murders in his district, claiming the DA is lying when he says certain murders are unsolved.
Let me tell you something, District Attorney Bryant Dunaway of Cookeville. You are a lying piece of shit.
And the conspiracies that he purports the most is child trafficking.
Yes.
He throws in there, oh yeah, there's drugs, I mean, drug trafficking,
Sure.
drug distribution, whatever. And I'm sure guns are involved in that too. But he really digs down on the child trafficking that's going on in this area.
Which was something we talked about with Aaron Shane Key.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, Aaron Shane Key allegedly witnessed an area where kids were being stored
Hmm.
for either use or transportation to other places. And so, one of the things about this part of Tennessee is you have a lot of main north-south corridors that run through there. You have I-65, you have I-75 over at Knoxville, and then you got 40 running east to west all the way across Tennessee
Hmm.
in a main thoroughfare.
Hmm.
You got I-24 that runs through Nashville, and it does not really surprise me that there is a huge concern of trafficking through that area.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And, you're getting more and more gang influence in the area.
Hmm.
So again, it's kind of a hotbed. And like other areas in the country that say, well, we're the worst with human trafficking or drug trafficking or, you know, we've got the worst gang problem, and this is the jumping off point.
Mm-hmm.
The absolute worst area I've ever heard of was Oklahoma, or not Oklahoma, but Omaha, Nebraska.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, I had that upside down.
It
Because I'm into
happens.
this. I'm into this. And wait a minute, before we go any further.
Mhm.
So Shawn Taylor is actually the assistant chief of police now in Millersville, Tennessee, which is on the Sumner and Robinson County line, I think.
Mhm.
That is where Millersville is. So I
Yeah.
just wanted to put that's where he's at right now.
Well, I was going to tell that story, and he is the assistant chief of police, right?
Yes.
Okay. And the reason he has kind of the power he has in that department is the chief of police is now serving as the town manager
Mm-hmm.
of Millersville. Excuse
Yes.
me. Um, and pending the outcome of an election, may or may not come back to the department full time as the chief.
Okay. Or is he wanting to leave that? See, I'm confused on that. Is he wanting to leave the position of town what's
Administrator.
administrator,
Yeah.
or is he wanting to leave the position of
See,
chief
I'm
of
going to
police?
say the majority of what I've seen is that the current chief of police, which is Sean's boss,
Okay.
who is serving as the town administrator, wants to leave the town administrator position, come back to the chief of
Okay.
police.
Okay.
That's the bulk of what I understand about it.
Mine as well. Okay.
Yep. And so that gives Sean a little more access, a little more power
Yeah, he's
on
got
day
time.
to day.
Yeah. Yeah. The chief is busy doing 2
Mm-hmm.
jobs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now, mind you, he's worked for larger departments. He's worked for smaller departments. He's worked for different kinds of departments.
Mm-hmm.
Shawn Taylor has.
Okay.
And so it hadn't been that long ago that the FBI came to serve a search warrant at his house, a sealed search warrant.
They served one there and at the Millersville um, police department as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And apparently took away lots and lots of evidence. So we
Yes.
watched another video from 2 different contributors, and one of them really supports Shawn Taylor
Right.
and claims to have either directly seen the evidence or part of the evidence that Shawn has gathered, or knows someone who has seen a large part of that evidence and believes in it.
Mm-hmm.
They have spread the word about this kind of stuff to departments across the United States. It's
Mhm.
not just in Tennessee.
Right.
And one of the things that I took from that was that Shawn Taylor had established a what they call a dead man switch,
Mm.
where
Mhm.
if something happened to him and he were gone, then other people know the information and or have copies of the information. They have enough evidence in their possession to do something,
To move forward.
to
Right.
move forward. Right.
Right.
And, obviously Sean's still with us because he's still posting videos.
Sure. Mhm.
But going back to kind of the core, what we did in the 13th was he brought up the DA, Bryant Dunaway, and that Bryant Dunaway was responsible for covering up a lot of stuff.
A lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that he had evidence about, the sex trafficking and the drug trafficking that was going on through that area.
Mhm.
Um,
Also, something about what and foreign investors buying land. That was something big too. He was pushing on.
yeah. And he claims that these people in power, like Bryant Dunaway, are in collusion with these foreign entities that are supplying the money to go in and buy property and stuff like that. And, um, build facilities like methadone clinics,
Right.
or other
Or
stuff.
landfills or things like that.
Right. Right.
Right.
And, that they're all colluding together and in this together.
And what happens to small communities whenever you do move in or these foreign places, buy land up? So you got a foreign investor buying American land. What happens to the people in that town, in return of this happening?
Yeah.
Is that their rent shoots up into places that really aren't even fit to rent out. They're not even up to standard,
Yeah.
which is a big thing in Tennessee.
Well, funny thing was, I talked to my mom, and she had found a little house,
Hmm.
and we talked about it a little bit, and she called a real estate agent.
Hmm.
And one of the things that real estate agent told her was, you would be floored to know that there are tons of people that are coming from California into Tennessee
Hmm.
and buying properties just to flip.
Yep.
Now, that doesn't mean that they're taking up residence there. They're just coming in to flip these houses because they can buy them so cheap.
Yep.
And then when you have things like businesses that build new manufacturing or whatever that's driving the price up,
Like Tyson Chicken,
yeah,
where
then
we're from.
right, then investors from all over. In fact, there's an apartment complex that we know too well that's owned by a company in California now,
Right.
in a little old rural West Tennessee town.
Right. Like you have no idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah. Yeah.
So, um,
It's like people stop paying attention unless they're looking for a place to rent in these small, you
mhm,
know, where we're at now, that's not an issue.
yeah,
But where, where we're from back in Tennessee, it is an issue.
yeah,
So I'm seeing what what Shawn Taylor's talking about with that kind of thing.
yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not impossible because it is happening
Mm-hmm.
in a lot of rural communities in the United States. And, just because of all the connections that we have in Tennessee, we hear about that the most.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, I've seen examples of it in a lot of places.
Yeah.
And so, Shawn Taylor comes across first as, this lunatic conspiracy theorist
Right.
to a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people just don't want to be read into something that might give them a nightmare.
Yeah. He even got into it with is it Channel 5, the
Mhm,
news?
mhm.
Phil Williams.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, there's accusations there on the media too from Shawn Taylor.
Well, I mean, most of those conspiracy theories go into the media and start and end with the media.
Mm-hmm.
The best way to hide something is to bend the public information about it.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
enforce the influence.
Right.
Um, so that's I think that's probably where most people go really silent with listening to him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But, I've always said to you, even, try your best to read between the lines.
Mm-hmm.
You know, yeah, listen, some of the greatest discoveries on the planet were discovered because somebody said something so outlandish and crazy that you had to look into it.
That's right.
And so, I can't fully discount him because, yeah, there's a lot of times where it does sound like it's lunacy,
Mm-hmm.
but I can't fully discount him because, out of chaos comes,
And we've heard these stories throughout, these areas in Tennessee and everywhere,
yeah,
and everywhere really, where law enforcement is is so deep rooted into organized crime that it doesn't blow me away to hear this. It does not blow me away to hear this when I think about things in each cases that we've covered, and with the victim may have said something like Aaron Shankey,
mhm,
and there is people don't just disappear. Kids don't just disappear. We cannot be stupid enough to think that there aren't trafficking rings, because if we're that stupid to think that there's no such thing, that's scary. That's
Yeah.
scary to think that we cannot be aware of this and that it just seems like a whole other world to me.
Yeah.
Like it just does.
Yeah. So Shawn Taylor, he's going to keep his march going, and that's his prerogative. He can do that.
That's right. Now, he did claim that when the TBI came into his home to do the search warrant, that one of the agents for the TBI urinated in his bathtub
Mm-hmm.
and trailed urine through his house
Mm-hmm.
outside. Now, TBI did come back and say that's not true. We did not urinate in his bathtub. He had a dog in there that was a service dog that worked for the police force,
Yeah.
and the dog was relieving itself in the bathtub.
Mm-hmm.
And the TBI agent took the dog outside, and the dog did drip urine when he was taking him outside to use the bathroom. And there is a video of a TBI agent walking the dog outside. So I'm not sure what's true about that part.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
you know, it's he said, she said.
Yeah. Well, we'll leave you with a little clip of what we're talking about with Shawn Taylor.
Yeah.
And yeah, you can take it for what it's worth.
Go watch him.
Mm-hmm.
I have seen many people supporting him.
Yeah.
A lot of people believe him. And I do believe there are specks of truth in every conspiracy theory.
Well, I mean, when you have things like a list of people from Epstein Island and now P. Diddy, it's not beyond
It's
the realm of possibility that it
no,
happens on a very low level too.
no, it's not. And I mean, it's hard to, it always makes me wonder, why is this still going on? Why is there still trafficking going on? But it's always going to go on if law enforcement is involved
Mm-hmm.
because who's there to get them?
It's always going to happen when money's involved.
Right. And that is money.
Yep.
It's disgusting.
Yep.
And it's, you know, can't trust everybody. And I don't want to sound like I'm a conspiracy theorist because I'm not that much. But like I said, I do believe there are specks of truth in every conspiracy.
Mm-hmm.
And I could absolutely lead you to some answers,
Mm-hmm.
major answers.
Mm.
So, yeah.
Well, like I said, we're going to leave everybody with a little clip of Mr. Taylor.
Yeah.
And we want to remind everybody to hit that like and subscribe button. And don't forget to hit that notifications bell. But most importantly, share these videos. We appreciate you and we love what we do. So here's to the next one.
Bye.
One of the things that happened that really upsets me that the TBI did at my residence was they urinated in my bathtub and tracked urine throughout my home. To me, that was the government saying, piss on you, America. And that's not okay. Yeah, Al Gore, you're a piece of shit, just so you know.